We launched the plant-based treaty campaign in 2021 in August, the end of August. And so it's a little over 3 years old right now, and we have already over 200,000 individuals endorsing. Thank you for having me. So 2 things going on. You might have expected a different presentation, and it's in the middle of the lunch break, so thank you for bearing with me and being here right now. Yes, everything is on the screen. I was a little nervous about that, so let's start. So I will tell you about the plant-based treaty and how to get politics involved in our activism. And I will tell you a little bit about, of course, why I want to do that, what I will do, or what we will do and how we will do it. Personally, I prefer if presentations are interactive. So if you have a question, please feel free to ask at any time. You don't have to wait until the end of the presentation. You can just ask whenever. You can ask and I will repeat the question, no worries about that. So feel free to do this. Some of you might have been here last year at my wonderful colleague Lea's presentation. There will be some overlap with that presentation because I will highlight the best parts of our last year's presentation and of course tell you about everything that happened since. So let's start. So why do we want to get a plant-based treaty and why do we want politicians involved in our cause? So we started as a movement based on individual activism, right? So we would target individuals on the streets and have meaningful conversations about using animals. I think that is super important. I don't want to take anything away from that, but we decided to add something to that. So we wanted to do a little extra and divest from that. There were several reasons for us to do that. Is this annoying? I hear an echo. Okay. So when I started as an activist in 2019, we have about the same percentage of vegans in the Netherlands as we do right now in 2024. The animals that were slaughtered, I'm sorry I don't have more recent numbers for this, but the animals that were slaughtered in my country in 2017 and in 2022 have increased. So obviously, we have been, not me personally, but animal rights activists have been working for animal issues for decades. And we can think how effective have we been, right? So that's very hard to realize and think about. But it's something to keep in mind, like, well, how effective are we actually? Because the numbers don't show what we want. We're not where we want yet. So, and also activism is very hard to do sustainably. So we see that most activists stay in the movement for about 2 to 3 years, and then they will leave because of trauma, burnout, like infighting with other groups, or just the lack of results that I was just talking about. So yeah, we thought about this in the animal safe movement, and we hope we came up with a very good solution to that. So like I said, we were thinking about the results, how effective is our movement, and how can we increase that without taking anything away from every other part of our activism that we are doing. So we launched the plant-based treaty campaign in 2021 in August, the end of August. And so it's a little over 3 years old right now, and we have already over 200,000 individuals endorsing, over 3,000 NGOs and businesses in 30 cities. Last year, like I said, this presentation was also given by my wonderful colleague Lea, and we have doubled the numbers in individuals, NGOs and businesses, and 9 more cities have endorsed since. So we like to believe it's a wildly successful campaign. So what is the plant-based treaty actually? So I talked a little bit about why we need it, but what is it? So it's a bottom-up pressure campaign. So what we do is we call on governments and world leaders to negotiate a plant-based treaty. We can't do it for them, but we put pressure for them to negotiate it. And we want, of course, to stop the negative impact of animal agriculture. on the planet, but obviously on animal lives. So there are 3 core principles of the plant-based treaty. So we want to relinquish, redirect, and restore. I will explain to you what that means. We want to prevent the climate crisis from getting any worse than it already is. So we have to stop all the actions, and we are focusing, of course, on animal agriculture, that is causing any harm to the climate change. So that means no more, no extra animal farms, no expansion to farms or to slaughterhouses or anything like that. So we have to relinquish from these activities. We also have to redirect from the activities that are already in existence. So we have to move away from the food system that we have right now, from the animal-based food system towards a plant-based food system. And we have to restore, of course, because when we move away from this destructive system, we have the opportunity to rewild the earth and to restore all the damage that we have done to it and create a wonderful world where any person can thrive. So, when we talk about the plant-based treaty, and also I have to say personally, it was my initial thought as well. When you talk so much about climate, it feels like you forget about the animals, right? So what about them? What about all the pigs, all the chicks, all the cows, all the animals that are in the farms right now who are suffering? What about them? I have a warning. It's a little bit graphic image, or not a little bit, there's 3 graphic images. So if you want to look away, please feel free to do that. So we have to remember that there's not just animals in farms. Also animals who live in the wild suffer immensely from climate change. Like we all remember the wildfires in Australia. But also closer to home, in the Netherlands a few years back, we had these crazy floodings. And here you see the really heartbreaking image of a cow who was drowned in one of the floods and who had to be pulled back to shore. But then we have all our little friends who cannot survive in this nature when everything has been sprayed with pesticides and things like that. And we cannot survive without them, but they cannot survive in a world that we have created. So we have to, in my opinion, we have to think about them as well. They are also deserving of our attention. So, how do we do it? How do we work on a plant-based treaty? So we are a positive and a solution-based campaign. So what we do is we do not talk too much about what we don't want, right? So we talk about what we want to see more of in the world. So we focus on the good thing, and we want more of that. And eventually that will lead to less of the other thing that we don't want to see. So we collect endorsements, and collecting endorsements will help us put pressure. It gives weight to the campaign, and it shows that it's not just us crazy activists who think this is important, but it shows that there is a general feeling amongst the public that we need a change in our system. We collect endorsements from all these kinds of categories, like individuals, organizations, businesses, politicians, and cities. And each and every one of them is as important. And how we collect these endorsements is really up to the team who is doing that at that moment. So that's why we really are a grassroots movement. So everybody can look into their own community and see, oh, I think it will be super helpful if I start this or that campaign. And I will give back to my community, and I will also, be able to show that we need to shift towards a plant-based food system. So we give back, and also it helps us as a campaign. So we do, for example, we do messaging on social media and stickering and, how do you say that in English? Chalking, thank you. But also we do things like food giveaways. You see all kinds of food giveaways, like for example in the Netherlands we do like little snackies. But there's also like other parts in the world. We are an international campaign, so in other parts of the world where there are like food deserts, where there's not enough access to healthy foods, you can think about food giveaways for healthy products. This is in the United States, for example. And other parts of the world where there is access to all kinds of foods. We want to inspire and say, the traditional, maybe not so healthy, but animal products based foods, you can also make them vegan and they will be just as tasty and delicious. We emailed and they said, here you go. No, are they? Thank you for asking the first question. Yay! Kudos to Wesley. So, they are. Ask Leah. She knows. I don't drink it. I don't like it. So, so we do, for example, community gardens, seed giveaways. These are especially kind of activities and campaigns that you can use as for people who are like higher up in a business or in politics, who they can like to use as a photo op. And then you can maybe later use that connection. So you have to be, that helps a lot, because this is something that people really want to show their face, like plant a tree, start a garden, things like that. That looks good for everybody, right? So we do workshops and presentations, like, yay, hello. And we had, unfortunately it's retired, but we had our food truck and we went with it to Bonn, climate conference. And many of you might know, but maybe not all of them, at the Bonn climate conference, that is where the agenda is determined for the COP climate conference. So actually this is a place where you can have a lot of influence on what will be talked about at COP. So what we did is what we do every year, we have 3 parts of our team. We have the food truck, which is usually me, Leah, and whoever wants to be with us. Then we have a team in the tent, you will see it over here. And then we will have amazing people who will do inside work, like Enrique and colleagues, who will talk to the people over there who will be deciding the agenda. So, and what we did I will talk about me a little bit. What Leah and me did is we used the food truck as like a Trojan horse. So we want more plant-based foods in this world, and of course less animal products, but we're a positive campaign, so we talk about what we want. So we want more plant-based foods, and we can talk about it, and we can print folders and flyers and things like that, or we can just do it. So what we did is we had the food truck, and we gave away 2,000 free hot dogs to everybody who wants it. And that was a really nice way of doing a campaign or activism for me, personally, because it makes everybody happy when you get free food. And also the feedback from inside was so positive and so heartwarming, because like I haven't been on the inside team, so other people might correct me, but I have really understood that it helped open up conversations about this and why it was necessary, and it would open people's minds a little bit. So I'm personally very proud of that. This is also a campaign that is really suited for all ages. Like, I'm a mother of 3 kids, and I can never take them to all my other forms of activism, or I can, but I don't want to. And but they want to. They want to be part of this activism, even though they are very small. They want to, have a meaningful voice in their future and how they want to see the world. It's very important for them. These are not my kids, but for example. And so what I find very nice about the plant-based treaty, it's so accessible to everyone. So if you're young, or if you cannot deal with all the horror all the time, or for any reason, there's always room for you in the plant-based treaty. So we can have all kinds of events, right? So here we have Max at the United Nations, or you have me at a little local pop. So big or small, it doesn't really matter. Again, it's grassroots, anything goes. So it's really flexible. And once we do all these kinds of activities, and it might seem a little bit random, but what we do is we want to create a buzz for the plant-based treaty. So it's all about, getting the name out, getting the little bit the brand out, but of course mainly about getting the idea out towards decision makers that we need this change and we need them to advocate for it. So if you've done it, if you feel like, okay, we are at a point where people know about the plant-based treaty and understand what it means, we are ready to contact our local councillors. So how will you do that? So for me, for example, I know we have some politicians in the room right now, but I made that so big in my mind, like, oh, I don't know what to say, how will I email them, what can I do? I made it too big. But in the end, I found out everybody is just a regular person. So what we did, so I just remembered what I wanted to say. So what we did is, let me see what my next slide, I prepared yesterday, sorry guys. So we want to get into contact with local politicians. And you can do that in several ways. I will talk about it later. This is what I will talk to you about in the next section of this presentations. But you can make use of different offices. Like you can use the politicians directly or the council members or whatever, but there's also all these kinds of offices who are useful to us as well, and we have used them in a very meaningful way before, like for example, sustainability offices. And we are all humans, so we thrive on connections, right? So when we have a connection, we can get a working relationship, get a plan into action to pass it in council. So we put together a team, and that team collects the data. So because first of all, we need to know who is in the right position to do something for this campaign. So we need to know who are the council members, who are the sustainability office members, whatnot. So we scraped the data, and I feel so super IT for learning how to do this. Thank you, Leah, for bearing with me during this process. So we scraped all the data of the local council websites to see who is in the city council. We put them in a form, and now when you go to the website, with one click on the computer, you can email all the city councils of your town. So you don't have to do anything yourself. We did everything for you. So that makes it super, super easy for anybody, who would think that this is important, like we do, to send an email to city council members, to just put in their name, say click, and then they will get an email. So that's the email action. After that email has been sent, of course, the idea is that we get a response. So a lot of the times we don't, but sometimes we get a response from somebody who has more questions, or who is very interested, or who is not interested at all. So if we have somebody who has more questions or who is interested, then of course we connect with them more. And what we can do for the plant-based treaty to pass a city council, we can do in two ways, like I tried to mention before. Like we can create a motion, we can't, but the politician can, but we try to help. Because what we have found is that it's not always super clear what we are asking for. So the plant-based treaty has a really amazing website. It's super beautiful, but it also has an entire list of demands. And we have found that sometimes it is not clear that we are not asking for all these demands, or when you sign a plant-based treaty, it's not that you are committing to all these demands. It is our view of what a plant-based treaty might look like. And you can take, or you can say the city can take their ideas from that, because we cannot decide for a city what parts of this treaty can be implemented, or they have judicial say over. So sometimes we had things in the treaty, but we got a response and say, yeah, but we are not legally allowed to decide on these matters. That's okay. That can be. But we can always talk about, okay, what things are you able to do? Like, what steps are you able to take? And then we can create a motion together. We would like to help on that, because by now we have some experience, yay. Or what we can also do is we can use other offices. For example, again, the Sustainability Office, because they usually go about the food strategy plans or the environmental plans, and they can make it a part of their plan to endorse the plant-based treaty and get some actions involved with that to make the city more, plant-based friendly. So sometimes we work really hard on an endorsement, and it works or not. But sometimes success comes from a completely unexpected place. Like one of the first, I think, European endorsements was Hayward's Heath. And I for sure had never heard of that. And we looked it up, and they endorsed the treaty, and we were like, oh wow, they're really a right-wing city. But they were very happy to sign the plant-based treaty, and it showed that, sometimes also in our mind, or my mind, we get a little bit restrictive about who we can approach or who not. So I find it very helpful to think about these kind of like happy accidents or happy successes that we can, that people got so enthusiastic and they signed, and they put all kinds of actions also towards signing, like information campaigns and things like that. So by now we have 30 city endorsements. We are only 3 years old, and a few of them are here on the screen. So we had LA City Council a while back. They unanimously voted for the endorsing the plant-based treaty. We have Edinburgh. It was the first European capital. We have Didim in Turkey. They were the first local government in Eastern Europe. And we have Amsterdam. Yay. Thank you. So we are very happy with our Amsterdam endorsement. And one thing that's followed from that was also the Belfast endorsement. So I'm also very proud of that. On all the endorsements, of course, but it's just that the Amsterdam endorsement was something that I worked on, and Leah worked on, and Enrique worked on. Where are you there? So that is really, really cool. So, but then you get an endorsement, and then you think, okay, so the city has endorsed, what now, right? So what we don't want is this to become the next greenwashing thing. So that they have like a sticker, yay, good to us, we endorse the treaty, and that's it. That's not something we want. So we don't want empty endorsements. We need meaningful actions to come with the endorsements, otherwise we won't accept it. So what we do is we work with the local governments, and we try to set goals that are tailored to that specific city. So like a city like Amsterdam can have, for example, very different goals towards creating a more plant-based food system than any other city that has endorsed. And we try to get a team together for as much as we can to help fulfill the goals and to connect to other parties that can help. For example, you see here we are at the Plant Forward conference, where we have a live signing of the plant-based treaty by the conference, but also Amsterdam city officials were there, but also people were there who were like in the food business, who are in the catering business. And then we try to connect everybody, because Amsterdam, for example, has said right now at this point they have 40% 40% plant-based food, and they want to move that up towards 60 or more. So, of course, they also need companies and things like that to do that. So we try to connect everybody to make it happen as soon as possible. So we don't just want a signature. So here you can see examples of that. It's too hard to read, I understand. It's just an example. But here you see in Amsterdam where the signing of the plant-based treaty was put in the food strategy. And they show that they want to increase the share of the plant-based protein in our diet from 40 to 60%. And on that side, you see Edinburgh, and they have also an action plan made with the signing of the plant-based treaty. And all kinds of goals, like, for example, information campaigns and other ways that they will try to stimulate a more plant-based food system. So that's really cool. I couldn't put everything on there, but it was just 2 examples. So it was really hard to start because it's a new campaign. I don't think that this has been done before. I know that we had some time to set up, right? But now we have more and more successes, and we feel like the train is moving. So every other success makes it easier for the next success, and we can lift off of each other. I'm sorry, Leah, your messages are on the screen. I'm so sorry about that. So that's making it easier, and I'm really happy for our team. We have a global team, and everybody's doing amazing work in their own environment, and I love that. I love the diversity of everything. So that's really cool. So to summarize, I have only 2 more minutes, so I'm happy I'm here. You can read it, but we have a positive and solution-based organization. We really want to give back to the community. We do not just ask for something, but we want to give something back in return. And there's lots of room for creativity. We have measurable success, like something that we have, like I personally felt that I was lacking before. And now it's so easy to see, like, oh, we have 20 endorsers, now we have 30 endorsers. So many people who support our cause. So that's really nice, and it gives a real high. And it's a sustainable form of activism, in my opinion, because it's really positive and it gives a good feeling. And we have often so much fun doing it. And it's accessible for basically everybody. So if you haven't, please endorse the plant-based treaty, because we talk a lot about the climate, but in the end, we just want to free all the animals. And here on the little picture, you see me and Leia, who were allowed to rescue some chickens from a chicken slaughterhouse. So I thought that was really appropriate to end with that. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please find me later. Thank you. Can we do questions?
Sorry?
Can we do questions?
Yes, we have a few minutes for some questions.
Okay. You can scan the QR code with your phone if you want.
Questions from the online audience? So far not. Questions from the old school audience here?
Yay.
There's this question.
So if a city wants to do this, like in what way do you help local activists? Like, what do you provide? I'm curious about that. Yeah.
So we have teams all over the world and coordinators. So if you go to the website plantbasedtreaty.org, you can subscribe and say that you want to become active with us. And then somebody will get in touch with you and take your hand along the way. And or you can just come to me afterwards, and I will help you. But you will be taken care of, yeah. Does anybody else have a question? That was, of course, the best question so far. So
we have another couple of minutes if there are more questions.
It's hard to top that question, but let's try. Yeah, in the back, Enric.
In the back? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Lisette, for the presentation.
Thank you.
I wanted to see if you could talk. I mean, I obviously already know, but I think it would be interesting to talk for people because I think most of us here come from an animal rights background. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the first times that you hear about plant-based treaty, mm-hmm. it might have a pushback, mm-hmm. but obviously it has a lot of benefits strategic-wise, but also emotional-wise. So I was wondering if you could talk about the benefits in general for our movement.
Yeah, of course. But I think the one does not take away from the other, right? So we can complement each other. I started as an animal rights activist. I still am. I do actions a lot of the time. So I go to vigils, for example, and a lot of my colleagues who are here are doing all kinds of animal rights activism, but they are also doing plant-based treaty, because we know, or we have noticed, that we need pressure from two parts. So we are all from bottom-up pressure or individual change. But for me personally, I felt like it wasn't enough. So maybe you can do like all-day conversations with people. And then maybe if you are lucky, then 2 or 3 people will make some different choices. But you can never measure that, if that has actual effect. For me, that was hard. Like, of course, everybody can make their own decision and anything about that. But I like to add this campaign to my activism because, first of all, it has measurable success, but also it is easier to talk about to most people. And the effect is the same. Like, of course, for me, it matters if somebody stops using animal products for the animals or for the environment. I think it's an ethical thing. But unfortunately, I have noticed that when I show people what happens to the animals, it is not enough. I don't understand why it's not enough if I explain to somebody, look, this is an animal, it has feelings, and this is what we do to them. And it's not enough for somebody to go, oh my God, I didn't know that. Let's stop doing that and create a different world. I think all of us has gone through this process of grief. And that was very, very hard for me, and I got so locked in my mind that I don't understand why we cannot have this conversation and just show what happens. And just like, just project Dominion on a big screen, and then everybody will go vegan, right? Unfortunately, that is not the way the human mind works. And so we added this campaign to add something towards activism. And the end goal is still the same. No more animal agriculture and a livable planet.
Thank you very much, Lisette.
Thank you so much.